Hey everyone, this is Derek M. Cook, and before I start this week's episode of Monster Kid Radio, I just wanted to come on here and say thank you for everybody's patience. This episode is going out a little late. I typically like to get the episodes out late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. It is actually a quarter after 4 p.m. Thursday afternoon as I'm recording this, and I'm still not done with the show. It will be going out later tonight, I hope. The reason the show is late, and I've mentioned this on Twitter and I mentioned it on Facebook as well, we said goodbye to one of our cats yesterday. Samantha, who we think was probably 18 or 19 years old, had been struggling for a while. And you know what? I'm going to make sure there's a link in the show notes to what I posted on Facebook because it's still pretty raw and I don't know if I really want to go through it again right now. So Brenda and I needed some time with Samantha before we took her to the vet, and obviously throughout the rest of the day afterwards, probably upsetting our other cats, Smoke and Wednesday, with how much we clung to them and insisted on cuddling with them when we came home. Thank you for everybody who said something on Facebook or on Twitter. I got a few emails and a few private messages as well, and a couple of texts. And I want you to know that I really appreciate this. I have used the social media aspect of what I do here on Monster Kid Radio for more than just Monster Kid Radio stuff. I've come to view so many of you as friends first, podcast listeners second. And you've become an important part of my life. So knowing that you've got my back when things are tough means a lot. So I really appreciate that. If you have an animal in your life, please give them a scritch or a pet or a belly rub or whatever for me and for Brenda, and especially for Samantha. Without further ado, here's Monster Kid Radio. What you're hearing right now is the song Negative ID from the Eugene, Oregon band Granrojo. It's from their self-titled album, Granrojo, which you can find at granrojo.bandcamp.com, or just follow the link in the show notes over at monsterkidradio.net. That is the website for the podcast you're listening to right now, Monster Kid Radio. My name is Derek M. Cook, and I'd like to welcome you to the show that celebrates the classic and sometimes the not-so-classic genre cinema of yesteryear. And this time around, we are in Week 5 of the Satanic Rites of January, the final week. There were 5 Thursdays this month. That meant 5 movies in a row that all had to do with the devil or Satan or something along those lines. Even if it's just kind of referenced a little bit like with the Satanic Rites of Dracula, it's still there. And this week, I've got the Shadow Over Portland's Chris McMillan coming to talk to me about a movie from the 70s starring The Shat. The Devil's Reign is on deck this time around with William Shatner and company, and it was a fun conversation. I just got done editing the conversation. There were a few times when Chris and I kind of went off script, not that there's a script, but man, we took a few tangents here and there, and you know, it was a fun chat, and I hope it's a fun listen for you. Also this week, we have Kenny's look at Famous Monsters of Filmland. You know, the segment where he goes and looks at the magazine Famous Monsters of Filmland. Big thanks to Kenny for providing that. Really appreciate it. I want to take a moment to send a message out to Professor Frenzy. Professor Frenzy's bedtime stories had become a staple here on Monster Kid Radio, and I appreciate all of his contributions to the show. It's made the show better, it's made the show richer, and it's just been fun for me to listen to these stories delivered the way he delivered them. It's just pretty cool. It's a nicely produced segment. I loved the music, just the whole vibe was cool. At this point, Professor Frenzy is going to pull out of doing the bedtime stories here on Monster Kid Radio. He is developing a YouTube show, and that obviously takes a lot more time. I should know because I've been trying to get some YouTube things going for a while now. Stay tuned. I think 2020 is going to have some cool YouTube stuff for me, but this is about Jerry Green, Professor Frenzy. Jerry, I wish you the best of luck with the YouTube channel. I can't wait to see what you're brewing, and please know that you'll always have a home here on Monster Kid Radio if you ever want to do the bedtime stories again, or any other segment. Just keep in touch, all right? I know I'll be watching the YouTube show. I've had some Facebook comments about previous episodes this month, and I'll be going over those next month, as I really do want to make sure this show goes out before too much more time has passed, because I know I'm running late. So, what are we waiting for?
There's a curse on our village. The curse of Frankenstein.
Your father was Frankenstein. That your mother was the lightning.
The most dreaded creation of man, the monster of Frankenstein, stalks again. Here is drama completely strange, full of weird suspense. With this great cast: Sir Cedric Hardwicke, Lionel Atwill, Ralph Bellamy, Bela Lugosi, Evelyn Ankers, Lon Chaney, in the gripping tale of a monster the tomb cannot engulf, chains cannot hold.
Going to give him life?
Yes. Not for the purposes that you think, Igor. I'm giving him another brain.
Is that your shot, Husband?
Yes.
Dr. Tongue's I Had That Shot, 7129 Northeast Fremont Street. Vintage goofiness from years gone by. Sci-fi and fantasy memorabilia. We specialize in things your mother threw away, and some she didn't. Dr. Tongue's Toys.
This is David Colton of the Rondo Awards, and you're listening to Monster Kid Radio.
Hello there, Monster Kid Radio heads. This is Kenny with a look at Famous Monsters of Filmland. This week's movie, The Devil's Reign, was featured in Famous Monsters number 120 from October of 1975. It was an 8-page article with 9 photos. It starts with a detailed plot synopsis, which stops short of giving the ending. Instead, these comments from the producers were included. Concluding scenes of our picture bring to the screen such destruction and terror as have never been photographed before. We believe we have captured on film the most incredible ending of any motion picture ever made. Soon, you can see if you agree. The article continues with a brief look at star William Shatner's career, which includes these comments taken from an interview. It seems to Shatner that making the movie has affected people in and around it. Having worked in so many Star Trek episodes, which frequently concerned individuals who used mental powers to control others, Shatner feels that it is possible for whatever one believes emphatically to really happen. Shatner sincerely believes that an X factor exists in all of us and is plausible for this factor to stem from some extraterrestrial influence. There's an unexplainable something about mankind that has influenced all his behavior throughout the ages, Shatner says. And there are too many things that do happen that cannot be explained. Shatner points out that the science fiction in Star Trek was imaginable. There are so many things that we're not even capable of imagining, he adds. Shatner has been intrigued by the various cults that have existed through the ages. I'm just curious and very open-minded, he says and smiles. Perhaps that's my X factor. A look at Ernest Borgnine's career is next, which includes his comments on today's movie. It's not every day that an actor gets to play the devil in the flesh. A flesh and bones Lucifer realized through elaborate makeup and special effects. Star Ernest Borgnine got to experience this in what could be the most unusual film assignment of his motion picture career. Borgnine is the closest thing to the devil yet seen on the screen. Anytime, any place, anywhere, says the producer. I had to go through a lot of changes playing Corvus, said Borgnine, including at one point getting transformed into a goat-like image of the devil, the hottest, most difficult makeup I've ever had to wear. Borgnine tackled his role with considerable gusto, immersing himself in the wide body of literature about Satanism and the occult. He brought numerous volumes on the subject with him, but once the film ended, said Ernie, those books went right back to the library shelves. Getting the devil out of you can only be a healthy attitude if the action taken is positive, never working against the betterment of mankind. The article ends with this look at director Robert Fuest. English-born director Robert Fuest enjoys a reputation for well-made horror. Prior to his chores on The Devil's Reign, he delighted audiences with the chills and thrills he delivered via The Abominable Dr. Phibes and the popular sequel Dr. Phibes Rises Again. His second movie was a thriller entitled And Soon the Darkness, followed by the remake of The Wuthering Heights, an ambitious project which led into the Phibes duo, establishing Fuest with a following of happy horror fans all over the world. A feature prior to The Devil's Reign was The Last Days of Man on Earth. That is all for this week's look at Famous Monsters of Filmland. We will have more next time. For MKR, this is Kenny saying adios.
At the edge of the universe, 400 men and women are probing the immeasurable blackness of space. Their leaders are an Earthman with no fear and a stranger with no heart. Travel beyond our time and solar system, into new galaxies, into worlds beyond your dreams. Star Trek, every week, in color on the NBC television network.
Rick Baker's creatures for The Exorcist, King Kong, and Star Wars are the height of motion picture magic and mystery. Now Baker has created the first new horror creature, the incredible Melting Man. Hero astronaut Stephen West returns from outer space. His body is melting. He must get human cells. He is the incredible Melting Man. Come prepared. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
Hey comic book fans, I'm Joe Stuber, producer and host of Comic Book Central, where each and every week I welcome a legendary talent to the Comic Book Central lair to talk about bringing comic books to life.
Greetings, true believers. This is Stan Lee.
When do you think the Academy is going to wise up and create a special Oscar category for Best Cameo?
I don't know. They're just asleep on their feet. Maybe your show, maybe this interview will be the turning point.
She is Erin Gray. Erin, welcome to the show.
I ended up being a contract player making, I think it was $600 a week. Gil was doing great. He was making the big bucks.
You got the posters, though. You got yes, the posters. Come on.
I look better in white spandex. What can I say?
Hey, this is Michael Rosenbaum. Lex Luthor from Smallville. Make sure you listen to this guy's show. He sounds like a good guy. People should listen to you, Joe.
Catch the very latest episodes at the website, comicbookcentral.net. Subscribe to the show on iTunes, like it on Facebook, follow it on Twitter, and be sure to join me each and every week for Comic Book Central.
This is Dean Cain, Superman from Lois and Clark, and you're listening to Comic Book
Central, where comic books come to life.
Excelsior.
Let's see, am I recording? Yes, I'm recording. Awesome. Everything's looking good. All right.
Cool.
You want to do this, man?
Let's go.
You know, I'm just going to use that as the intro. It's Chris McMillan. It's week 5 of the Satanic Rites of January, the final week of the Satanic Rites of January. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
You know, I'm okay. Yeah, we're going to leave it at that. Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay, we'll go with it. We'll go with okay. That'll work.
Sounds good.
Sounds okay.
Yeah. Sounds. What is happening here? All right. So, it's, man, the beginning of this conversation is so all over the place, right?
Oh, well.
You know what it is? It's 5 weeks of doing this. Normally, when we do a theme month, 4 weeks, we're done. But with the way the schedule kind of worked out, 5 weeks of the Satanic Rites of January. And I've had fun overall. The movies have been fun to kind of revisit or visit.
Yeah, you've done some good ones. I know you did Satanic Rites of Dracula. I have yet to hear it because I am so far behind. But I'm looking forward to that. I know. I'm terrible, aren't I?
Nah, it's all right, man. The podcast is always there waiting for you to listen when you finally, want to catch up with your friend's work. But anyway.
Oh, make me feel guilty now.
Nah, it's all good, man. It's all good.
No,
totally
I know. Yeah. But yeah, I'm looking forward to listening to it. So, yeah, it's got to be a lot of work, though, to get a whole set of themes. You can't just go, I've had this for a while. I'll just put that in there because it's got to be satanic.
It's been a treat. It really has. And I'm really glad that Alistair Hughes and I had the conversation that kind of birthed this theme month because, it's just fun to look at Satan. Boy, that comes out wrong. It's just fun to look at some of these movies. And some of them really speak to me. The Devil Rides Out really speaks to me. The Satanic Rites of Dracula really speaks to me on a creative level. And I think people who have either already read or are getting sick and tired of hearing the ad for my book know that I have a thing for monster hunting and that sort of thing in my fiction. So the Satanic Rites of Dracula, you can see some of that in there. You can see the influence of things like that in there. And, it's just something that I find kind of special. Will I do this again next year? I don't know. I know there are some films that I wanted to do, some conversations I wanted to schedule that I unfortunately did not make happen. I did want to do Race with the Devil with Todd Brown from the Haunted Cinema. And, maybe I'll do that later this year. Maybe I'll hold it till next January. We'll see.
That's a fun one, too. Some reason after The Exorcist came out, everybody started jumping on the satanic bandwagon, so to speak, back in the 70s. And we got these great, cheesy satanic movies.
I feel like occult style horror really blossomed and then maybe withered in the 70s. There was a real focus on that. And I enjoy that too. Mm-hmm. So it was fun to get into these. And this one was one that I had never seen before. When you mentioned it, I thought, you know what? I'm going to sit on it. I'm not going to watch it until right before I record with Chris because I want it to be fresh. I want to have that experience of having just seen it right beforehand, and I have thoughts.
Oh, good. So do I, but you did tell the Count that we are going to spoil the ending of this because there's no way we can't talk about the ending.
Yeah, as always.
This is Count Dracula, and I'm here to offer you a friendly warning. Derek and his guests often get excited, and occasionally this results in revealing key plot points of the movies they're discussing. You know how the children of the night, monster kids can get sometimes. So consider yourself warned, and don't come begging to me to kill them for their transgressions afterward. I have more pressing issues to take care of, like that pesky Van Helsing.
Yeah, okay, good, because, the ending's really what makes this movie to a point. I really enjoy it. I think The Devil's Reign is a fine B-schlock style horror film that works well. It's just the poster promises people melting, and this movie really delivered that.
Yeah, it's the 70s, so we're seeing a little bit more gruesomeness. We're seeing a few more things that we wouldn't normally see, like in The Black Cat, which was the first movie we covered. I think. Mm-hmm. Was it the first movie we did this month? I don't remember. But a movie we did earlier this month.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't remember. I think that was the first. Well, like I said, I haven't listened to him, so.
Chris.
I know.
No, it's all right, man. It's all good. Totally understandable. Let's see. This is the first time we've had you on the show in 2020. How's the new year treating you and the Shadow over Portland?
It's doing okay. It's doing good. I'm okay.
I see that. That seems to be a recurring theme this time around. The blog is back up and running, with the holidays and all that. Sometimes things kind of get in the way, and I get that totally. Nice to see that coming back.
Oh, yeah, it's back. I'm hoping to get a few other things started up in the next couple of months, and I'll keep everybody posted on that.
Ooh, don't tease me, bro.
Part of it is I want to do more reviews and more opinion pieces on the blog. I enjoy just listing things and stuff, but I'd rather have moments where I'm more creative and doing something interesting or doing something, different. So, yeah, I'm planning on that. And, I'll say it now. I'm going to try and get the podcast I've talked about for years up and running on it.
So I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that or not.
Nope. Now that it's out, I better get on it.
I don't know, man. I don't want the competition.
Oh, come on. There's no way I can compete with you. Jeez.
Nah.
Man, I'm just going to be lucky if I come across as sounding relatively competent, I mean, you're the man. You are the person I aspire to reach that level of. Or something like that.
As the person who has to edit you every time you come on my show, I also hope that you can... No, I'm just...
Oh, that was nasty.
Yeah, that was inappropriate.
Oh, well.
So sometime in 2020.
Yes, that's the plan.
All right.
That's the plan. And like I said, now that I said it, I better do it.
Yes, sir.
So, yep. Mm-hmm.
Right on. All right. Well, we're going to dive into The Devil's Reign and talk about all that. But we got to do something that I forgot to do in the last episode. I completely spaced forward in the Classic 5 with Frank Schildiner.
Oh, my. Well, God, I'm glad you're not forgetting now because I was studying all last night for it.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Really.
Okay, well then I will pick out the really, really hard questions this time just to see how well you set them out. Oh man, listeners, I'm sorry. I'm feeling a little off energy-wise, so I appreciate your patience. And Chris, I appreciate your patience. I kind of tweaked my back on a flight recently and a bus ride, so I'm on some painkillers. So thank you for everybody's patience as I kind of muddle through this. Let's talk about the Classic 5. It is the game that we play here on the show every week. When I remember, I have a deck of cards here. Each card is a this or that. Which movie do you prefer? Style, question, that sort of thing. It's a conversation starter, an icebreaker. There are no wrong or right answers, really. It's just a way for a couple of monster kids to get talking or continue talking. Chris, are you ready to play a round of the Classic 5?
Well, I better be.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right, here we go. Card number 1 from the Kaiju deck. Which Kaiju would you want to see on the big screen in a brand new movie?
Well, my go-to response, King Ghidorah, has already been done. So let's see. I want to see the Gargantuas come back.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the first kaiju movies I ever saw, and it's got that special place, in my heart because of that. And I really enjoyed the movie, even though, Russ Tamblyn wasn't really up for acting in it. But I really enjoyed that movie. I just loved it. So I'd love to see them come back. Maybe they'll show up in Godzilla vs. Kong on Kong's side. I don't know. I hope so. But yeah, if I was to pick a kaiju, those two are the ones I want to see come back on the big screen.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Let's step into the Hammer deck here for card number 2. Which movie do you prefer? Horror of Dracula or The Curse of Frankenstein?
That's that's a hard one.
I know.
But I'm gonna go with Horror of Dracula.
Horror of Dracula. Dracula, the most terrifying lover the world has ever known. Who will be his bride tonight? Horror of Dracula. Dracula, dead and yet alive for 600 years. Dracula, the human vampire who lusts for human blood. See Horror of Dracula. The greatest shock story of them all now achieves new heights of motion picture suspense. See Horror of Dracula and watch the fiend who rises each night from his coffin bed to seek the rendezvous that alone can keep him alive. See Horror of Dracula and watch those who came to destroy a monster stay to become his victim. See Horror of Dracula, but don't dare see it alone. The chill of the tomb won't leave your blood for hours. Horror of Dracula, all new and in flaming Technicolor.
Well, first off, Christopher Lee actually gets to speak in that movie. He's not on screen all that much, but at least he's talking and acting. You know what I mean? He's got dialogue, and he does it so well. And I mean, let's be honest, we're introduced to the best Van Helsing ever by Peter Cushing. I mean, that man kicks butt. So, I mean, Not that his Baron Frankenstein was slouching either, but I just love that ending battle between the two of them, that smackdown in Dracula's castle. That's just, horror of Dracula.
Fair enough. All right, card number 3, Black Sunday or Black Sabbath?
Oh, man, you are pulling out the hard ones.
Yeah. That's from the deep cut deck.
That is harsh because they're both so good. Black Sunday.
The sound you hear is dripping blood. This is the start of Black Sunday. Black Sunday comes but once every 100 years. On that day, the undead demons of hell rise to unleash an orgy of evil on the world. From Nicolas Gogol's great classic, American International Pictures presents Black Sunday, the most frightening motion picture you have ever seen. She was murdered 500 years ago. There in the barren waste that was her cemetery, they nailed the mask of Satan to her face. Not since Dracula stalked the earth has there been such an unspeakable day and night as Black Sunday.
I love the atmosphere. I love the look of it. And Barbara Steele, of course.
Sure.
Black Sabbath, I mean, that's the thing. It's a great film. It's right up there. Although I think the stories, the way they're put in the Italian version, work better than the American one because they start with the phone and then they go with the Vortilac and they end with the water one, which works really well because the phone one, I could take or leave. The Vortilac, oh yeah. And then that ghost story one, that one's creepy. But I think the woman being stalked by the person on the phone, just it was one of those where it's like it's really beautifully shot, it's interesting, but it just didn't engage me. I have to go with Black Sunday.
Okay. All right, card number 4. What was the most recent Universal monster movie you've watched?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I remember. Creature from Black Lagoon. Of course.
No! Sheer stark terror grips you in underwater 3D in Creature from the Black Lagoon.
The most terrifying monster of the ages rises from the sea, raging with pent-up passions.
Making every man his mortal enemy, every woman's beauty his prey.
Creature from the Black Lagoon in 3D, starring Richard Carlson and Julie Adams.
Every horrifying scene leaps out of the screen right at you.
A Universal re-release, rated G.
When were you watching Creature, man? And why didn't you invite me over?
Well, I'm sorry. I should have invited you over, but it was like last year when I think it was Steve Sullivan or someone on the Monster Radio Facebook feed posted that they were selling the Blu-rays of the Universal Monster series for like $9 on Amazon. And it's like, oh, well, okay. I know I have them all, but I got to get a Blu-ray of Creature. And yeah, that was the last one because it was like, well, I got the Blu-ray, got to watch it now. It was either that or A Creature Walks Among Us. I think it was Creature from Black Lagoon because, I don't think I've gotten to Creature Walks Among Us yet. So, Creature from Black Lagoon. That's another one I have to watch. Creature Walks Among Us. And Revenge of the Creature.
Have to.
Well, yeah.
All right, final card. You get to live for a day inside a classic monster movie. Which one is it?
Oh, Bride of Frankenstein. Hopefully the day of the bride's creation, because God, to be in that laboratory, all the sparks, all the electricity, all the grandeur of that, that would be the one I'd want to see for real.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it would just be amazing to actually live through that. That would be cool. Of course, I'd probably be the one guy who got electrocuted because I touched the wrong wire or something. But, what a way to go.
Are you saying you'd pull that lever that one doomsday lever that...
Well, it's like a big red button. You don't put a big red button somewhere unless you want someone to push it.
Exactly.
So you don't put a doomsday lever anywhere unless you want someone to pull it.
Fair enough. See, for me, it would have to be Creature, but whatever, to each your own.
Well, yeah, but I don't really like hot and muggy and humid, and I just think of going to the Amazon and just going, ugh. I'm sweating. I'm wearing sunscreen all over me. I'm miserable. Yeah. I'd rather have the rainy lightning storm.
I hear that, but then I also think then I'd go swimming with Julie Adams, and it's all good.
Well, yeah, that is true. That is true. Good point there. But I said bride. I'm sticking with it.
Okay. All right. Fine. All right. Well, that was the classic 5. Chris, do you feel warmed up?
Oh, yeah. And I'm so glad I studied last night.
The Devil's Reign with Ernest Borgnine, William Shatner, Eddie Albert, Keenan Wynn, John Travolta, Tom Skerritt, and Ida Lupino.
What is it, Julie? What are you seeing?
Book. A long time ago. I can see them. They're looking for the book.
A curse on thee and thine forevermore. I will follow thee and thy descendants for all eternity. Until the book is mine again.
And what about the disappearance of my family, for crying out loud?
An angry Lucifer lashes out and attempts to forever trap these sorrowful souls in a living hell. Will he succeed? Find out with The Devil's Reign.
The Satanic Rites of January. We had to do a movie that had something to do with the devil, Satanism, satanic or Satan in the title. The Devil's Reign. That fits the bill. It's got the devil in the title. There's a satanic cult. And William Shatner. It's got all these satanic... I'm just kidding about William Shatner. It's got all these satanic... that's more Eddie Albert. Anyway, so we have all this...
No, well, yeah. Well, you also have Anton LaVey.
Okay. Was he actually in the film?
Yes, he is.
I didn't see him. Granted, I'm not overly familiar with what he looks like, but I don't know if I recognized him.
Yeah, I know for sure he's in the scene where they burn the wax figure and William Shatner's being changed into the eyeless zombies, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
That Ernest Borgnine has. And he is in it, but the thing is, he's wearing a helmet that covers half his face.
Okay.
But he's pretty, they have a couple of scenes where he's pretty prominent. And there's one that's basically a close-up of him in the mask. So, yeah, he is in the movie, as well as credited as being a technical advisor.
All right.
I don't know how much technical advice he gave, but it certainly was a draw, to have the founder of the Church of Satan in your satanic movie giving you technical advice, I guess.
Well, and again, it's the 70s, and these genre films, there's so much of it in there, it just felt like the right time to do a movie with Satanism or witchcraft. I mean, there's just something about that era where you see so many movies like that coming out. So to have a quote-unquote expert involved in some manner, must have given it a little extra push. I don't know.
Yeah, and I know that LaVey was pretty good at promoting himself from everything I've read about him, which wasn't a whole lot, mostly Wikipedia, but he was a very good self-promoter, apparently.
Okay.
This was just another way of promoting himself, because apparently back at the time he was going on all the talk shows like Donahue and stuff like that, I guess, promoting his church. And so this is just feels like another big promotion for him. Or promotional opportunity, I should say. But I don't think it really makes the film any better. Because it's still a great film.
So the
At least I think so.
It's directed by the director of the Fives films, Robert Fuest. So you've got some genre cred here. You got a guy who worked with Vincent Price behind the camera here doing his thing. And yeah, maybe his budget and or allotted amount of days to shoot got cut after he started production, but he does the best he can with the elements that he has on hand, and some of these elements include some incredibly charismatic actors: Shatner, Ernest Borgnine, and I know I was making a joke, Eddie Albert's great, Keenan Wynn is great, Tom Skerritt. You've got some wonderful people in front of the camera.
Oh yeah. And you've also got, the desert landscape, which Fuest used the desert landscape really well. I mean, he's shot it, and it looks beautiful. The film really looks beautiful. You've got, the desert background. For the budget, he's got some really good shots. The scene where William Shatner just realized he can't compete against Ernest Borgnine in a battle of faith, and he takes off from all the minions. Well, that tracking dolly shot is just gorgeous. It looks great. So yeah, I think the direction in this is great. You've got all these actors who are not phoning it in on this one. They're actually acting and doing a great job with the material. I mean, sometimes it's a little iffy as to how, the lines they're given and stuff, but still, they all do a great job.
This is post Star Trek, the original series, for Shatner. So, yeah, he does have some of the Kirkisms that he developed on that show still present, but he's still pretty early in his, I guess, film career, as well as Tom Skerritt and some of the other younger performers in the film, to where, yeah, they are not these personalities on screen. It's not, hey, that's Shatner. It's Shatner acting as somebody. It's not, hey, that's Tom Skerritt. It's Skerritt as somebody. Does that make sense? They're not hiding behind or getting wrapped up in their persona as a performer. They're actually doing what they need to do, and that's act or perform with some real earnest intention.
Yeah, and that's very true with Shatner. I mean, he's not channeling his Star Trek method of acting in this one. Like, he's basically acting. It's kind of like his Kingdom of the Spiders. I mean, he's still William Shatner. He still has some little quirks, but he's not accenting them as much as he will later on,
Right. I mean, and I think Shatner gets a bad rep anyway for his style of acting on the original series. I thought it's not as bad as people make it out to be. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely, early enough where he's a hungry performer and he's really working it, which I found surprising when I learned that during the course of the production, he actually took off for a few days to go do a Star Trek convention and then came back. So it's like, okay, we're going to go away from the way we did things on Star Trek. Oh, by the way, I got to go back to somewhere that celebrates Star Trek. Oh, and then I'll come back. I was like, well, okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey,
whatever.
He probably had committed to that before this and before the film is. And it's like, got to do it. And if it's only for a weekend, they probably were fine.
Oh, yeah.
I would assume.
Yeah. Well, and having not seen the film before, sitting down to watch it, I was surprised when Shatner was not center stage the entire time. I thought he was the lead, and he kind of is, but he's not the only lead. Yeah, he's kind of like our motivation through the first act of the film, but then things shift over to Tom Skerritt. I didn't expect that. I really thought we were going to be hanging out with Shatner the entire time.
That was the whole Captain Kirk thing playing off of it. You're like, oh, it's William Shatner. He's going to be the hero, the main protagonist. And it's like, no, not quite. Things take a little bit of a left turn for him, and they don't work out very well.
Well, and that's another thing that I think happened in the 70s when it came to genre cinema, whether it's sci-fi or horror, is that some of these chances were being taken in a way that you wouldn't have seen in the 30s or 40s or 50s. If you had somebody in the top billing, they were going to be in the film, from start to finish. And this is one of those situations where I feel like, yeah, maybe people expected Shatner to be a little bit more prominent in the movie, and nope. Just kidding. It's really somebody else. So it's a nice, a subversion of expectation, I suppose.
I could see that. The popularity of Star Trek at the time, it was popular, but I don't think it was quite the same level as it is now.
Oh, no, not at all. If you go back and you read some of Shatner's memoirs or autobiographies, Star Trek memories and Star Trek movie memories, he'll talk about in these books about how after Star Trek was canceled, there's a good chunk of time where he was just living in a trailer. He was not the guy that he would eventually become when he was regularly working on things like T.J. Hooker or doing the Star Trek films or anything like that. He's a working guy trying to get work just like everybody else. So yeah, I appreciated this film on that level for sure. So I don't want to do a beat by beat breakdown. I know sometimes we do that on the show, but I've done that a lot in most recent episodes. I just kind of want to talk briefly about the story, the overlying story here.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah, it is pretty simple. And I think that's another place that this film succeeds, knowing they didn't have a lot of time and money to shoot this. They really streamlined the story they were telling, the kind of story they were telling. You've got the movie picking up immediately in the thick of things. You've got this family that's got this book that this cult or church once it gets their hands on, and hey, there's a melting guy. And
we start the melting right away, like within the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, there's a melting guy. We find out there's somebody named Corbus that is kind of the big bad, and Shatner's going to go face off against him. Not really, but he's going to try.
He gives his best. But,
Yep. And he goes to this little small abandoned, basically ghost town with this old abandoned church and has a confrontation with Corbus, played by Ernest Borgnine, who I tell you
is, yeah.
No, go ahead.
He's amazing in this.
Every time I see him in a movie, he is a completely different style character than the previous film I saw him in. Or TV show. I, growing up, was most familiar with Bergnine from Airwolf.
Oh, okay.
And then I saw Escape from New York, completely different character, right?
Oh, yeah.
And, just every time I see him in something, he's a completely different character. He's a chameleon. He's in The Black Hole as something totally different. He's just a different character every time I see him, and completely different. Just not like, hey, he's a villain or hey, he's a good guy. He really buries himself in the role, and he's holding his own in this film against everybody in the film just by will of person, just by
Yeah, I think he takes over the film whenever he's on screen. I think. I mean, he is just that good. When Shatner first shows up in the ghost town and he has that confrontation, my God, he's just a few steps away from the mustache twirling stereotypical villain at a point, but he's so in control. He's just great. He plays it to the hilt without overplaying it.
Yeah, he goes.
That's what I think I'm trying to say.
Yeah, he gets right up to the edge and then turns around. He doesn't quite go over that mark to be like a campy supervillain. I think the first time we see him interact with Shatner over the water, that's one of the most powerful scenes in the movie, as far as I'm concerned. Nobody's melting, nobody's on fire, nobody's got makeup on their face, but it's still one of the most powerful scenes in the movie because of the way they're just kind of dancing around each other and shooting these barbs at each other dialogue-wise. Shatner can't get the water to work, but Borgnine can. Here's some water. If you're thirsty, have some. Well, the water's bad. Of course it is. A sweet way to defeat the thirst or get over the thirst, he says. And it's good. I like it.
It is. He is so good in this.
Yeah. Another reason why Shatner is here is because Borgnine Corbus has taken his family, and Mark Preston, Shatner's character, is going to try to get him back, and, well, it doesn't quite work out. You mentioned the faith against faith scene. They make a little wager. My faith is better than your faith. I get my family back. And if I lose, he gets the dark book, and he gets to keep Preston there as well. And
it don't work out too well for Shatner.
No, I was a little surprised. Nope. I mean, on the one hand, I'm thinking, what does God need with a starship? But on the other hand, I'm kidding.
No, that was a good call, though. That was a good one to pull out. But anyway.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, they've taken over this old, beat-up, rundown church. They're doing their satanic mass, their satanic services, and Preston's just doing the Lord's Prayer, trying, and well, ultimately decides to get out of Dodge, and that's not going to work either.
He came armed. He's got a pistol, and he starts shooting some of the Satanists, and Borgnine goes, "Is that your faith?" Which delivers it so much better than I did there.
Oh, it's great.
Oh, man. He's just, it's just, and then, like I said, there's that tracking shot as he's trying to get away from the hooded Satanists that uses the desert and that old decrepit church and everything so well, just so well.
He gets to the car to try to get away, and he opens the car door, and hey, there's one of them sitting in the car just waiting for him. Like, that's great.
I'm your Lyft driver.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe more like Uber, but My apologies to any Uber drivers in the audience there.
we're having fun here.
But that's pretty much it. And I expected Shatner to be the hero, like I said, through the whole film. But no, he's pretty much taken out of most of the film at this point. Now we have other characters to follow. Tom and Julie Preston, Tom Skerritt and Joan Prather, and Eddie Albert as Dr. Richards becomes a character as well that is important later on. But yeah, I mean, it's them going to go save Tom's brother, saved Mark.
Yeah, it pretty much is. I mean, Eddie Albert doesn't show up again until basically the final act, because at first it's Tom and Julie going out there.
And Julie's got another trademark of 70s horror. She's got some woo-woo. She's got ESP, psychic abilities, something.
Yes.
So she has these visions.
And she's seeing visions of what's to come. You kind of get a setup for it, which I think is a shame. Because, you get to see Ernest Borgnine in his devil makeup early, and I think that kind of lessens the impact it'll have when it does happen actually in the film.
Yeah. I would have liked to have sat on it a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think they should have. But anyway, so he and Julie, Tom and Julie go to town, and they encounter John Travolta in his first movie role as the Satanist. The thing is, I know, Roger Ebert considers this one of his most hated films.
Really?
Yeah. He thinks it's dull. And I'm like, are you watching the same movie I am? Because for the most part, it's a pretty solid, evenly paced film. They're saving up the big climactic scene for the climax, as they should. They gave us a little taste with the melting guy in the first part, but it travels along pretty well until Tom and Julie try to drive out of the town that the Satanists are in. For me, there's a big problem. Well, there's a couple. They're driving away. They know the town's invaded, but Tom's got to go back. So he lets Julie take over the driver's seat, and she drives away. And of course, there's a hidden Satanist in the back of the car. Now, if it had been the middle of the night, considering they're in black, I could see them, being able to hide back there. But it's broad daylight in the desert. How do you miss it? And then he goes in, he sees what's happening to Mark. And he has to run out of town, and he runs back to his house. But Keanu Wayne, as the sheriff, tells him, if you're going to go out there, make sure you got plenty of gas and take some extra water because it's a ways out there. And somehow he runs all the way back. Sure. That one was I think that, the director had some problems with potholes. Great. No, plot holes. And I think that's one of them. But after that, it still kicks in pretty quick with Eddie Albert and Tom Skerritt going to take him out.
Yeah.
And finding the satanic Fabergé Easter egg. I saw it, and it's like, oh God, it's like a Fabergé egg with souls.
Which I thought was kind of cool, actually. I really appreciated the way they set that up. Is there actually a TV monitor inside that?
That's what I'm listening to the director's commentary I was listening to last night. Apparently, yeah, it was a TV monitor that they had inside of it. So
that's great.
Yeah, it looks great. It really does. I mean, it's why it's not as mobile when you're looking at it, because there's wires, but it looks really good. Of course, you've got all the souls that Corbus has collected in there, and it's looking bad for our heroes because he's got the book. He's got the Devil's Rain. I guess they call it that because, all the people inside are being rained upon for some reason. I don't know. But, William Shatner does pull it out at the end and starts the melting process. And boy, they got gloppy.
They really did.
Should we talk about that now?
Yeah, let's talk about how much custard must have been. I don't know what it was, but it looked like custard.
I don't know what it was, but man, they used a lot of it.
That they did.
Wow.
That they did.
I think this movie came out 2 years before The Incredible Melting Man, so this was like one of the first melting sequences. Well, no, you've got the Poe tale. Oh God, what was that in? Tales of Terror? Where Basil Rathbone hypnotizes.
Oh, yeah.
Vincent Price, yeah. But this is just this is not stationary makeup. They're pouring gunk out of people's eyes and stuff. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that it is. It's good and messy, and even before we get to that point, we have some really cool imagery because of what the possessed or the emptied out vessels look like, with the way their eyes are completely blacked out. It's unnerving. And I think part of the reason why I find it so effective is because it wasn't done in post. It's not a visual effect, which I know it's the 70s. It wasn't done with an optical printer or anything like that. It was all done with makeup.
For the most part, it looks good. If the camera holds a little too long, you kind of notice it's not quite right. But for the most part, it looks wonderful. And then, of course, we've got Ernest Borgnine, as we mentioned, in his devil makeup. My God, that is amazing work.
Really animalistic and bestial.
Borgnine uses that makeup to channel in someone totally different from Corbus. Corbus is this kind of almost genteel, smiling sort of person that is evil just by his mannerism. And then the devil makeup comes out and he's just a monster at that point.
Yeah.
It's another reversal of the okay, you can cut that. What I'm trying to get at, folks, is Borgnine just sells that change. Just makes it great.
Yeah.
But yeah, the melting. The makeup was credited on the film by the Borman Studio, who, were instrumental in like Planet of the Apes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you go on IMDb, the main credit is to Ellis Borman Jr., who did work on Star Trek episodes, and apparently the Planet of the Apes TV show. That's not on IMDb, but I found it on Planet of the Apes wiki. I don't know. But yeah, the Borman Studio was involved with the makeup. I don't know how much. But the interesting thing is, one of the Bormans, Ellis Borman, who worked on The Ghost of Frankenstein and The Wolfman for Universal, was at the time head of the lab at Don Post Studios, the mask makers.
Okay.
And they made, basically off the makeup, I'm sure, in doing the makeup, they made a life cast of William Shatner that they later used as a mold for a Halloween Captain Kirk mask.
I was wondering if you wanted to bring this up or if I was going to. Yeah, that's fascinating because where this goes.
Yeah, because that mask later ended up being the one for Michael Myers in Halloween.
And I'm going to take it a step further.
Oh, okay.
Because I knew that going in. Because even though I managed to stay away from the movie itself, of course I had to do a little bit of reading and research. I didn't want to spoil it, but I wanted to know a few things here and there. Okay, there's a scene in the third act where Tom Skerritt's character is confronting some of the Satanists, and he ends up discovering that his brother, Shatner, has already been emptied out, hollowed out, and become one of the minions. And Shatner has Skerritt, and there's a look of recognition from Skerritt, and then they double back to a shot of Shatner, and he tilts his head just like Michael Myers does.
Yes.
And it is unnerving because, man, that's Michael Myers. And I'm not saying that that's where they got that for the Halloween films, but that's just knowing the connections. It's like, oh, man.
Yeah, and you can totally see it. Because the makeup, it seems like they use kind of that makeup for the mask in some way.
Uh-huh.
And so, he just tilts the head and it's like, oh my God, where's John Carpenter's score?
Right.
Interesting thing about the melting scene too, apparently it was shorter. They didn't have quite as much goo running. But the executive producer, Sandy Howard, recut the director's version of the film, adding in more melting. Because, let's be honest, that's what the whole promotional artwork and TV commercials were really promoting. It was, hey, you're going to see a whole bunch of people melt, which is another plot hole. When I saw this film, I think I saw it in my 20s. It took a while. I saw it and I'm like, oh, yeah, it's The Devil's Rain. But if you look at it, the first melting character is in the rain and he's melting. Now all the Satanists are in the rain and melting. Satanists apparently can't go out in the rain. which is why they're in Mexico and not up here in the Northwest. Because every time it rains, someone's melting.
Yeah. So they definitely have a Wicked Witch of the West problem. They get wet and they melt.
Which I'm fine with because, my gosh, it was just, I mean, it was amazing makeup work for the time. And, this is a PG movie. And I always say that PG ratings are a little different back in the 70s. And I think that's the case with this. Because, it's really gnarly, some of that stuff.
The 70s PG is, man, you got away with a lot. You got away with a lot more. And even the early 80s. The Beastmaster is PG despite having a topless scene. So you got away with a little bit more than, a little different. And I didn't feel like the rating held this back. I was actually a little surprised. I didn't know what it was rated going into it. And as the movie's playing and the movie ends, you get, like some of the older movies do from this era, you get the ratings card. And it said, it's all in blue for the most part with a little banner that says PG on it. I'm like, wow, that was PG. Lots of people getting shot with shotguns and lots of goop. And we're talking about Satan. Okay. There you go.
Yeah. This definitely would not be a PG movie today.
Oh, no.
Probably they could get away with PG-13 maybe. I don't know. But, the makeup is really disgusting.
Yeah.
It's not something we could do with CGI now. There is no way. I know people would try if they ever remade this film and make it, we'll just CGI all the goo. No, that don't work. This goo is just thick and multicolored and just dripping everywhere. And God, it must have been uncomfortable for those actors to have all those pipes pumping out that stuff all over them.
Especially when it comes out of their eyes. Oh
yeah,
man, that's where I was like, this is over the top, and I'm loving it.
Oh yeah,
this is a bit much, but I'm digging it. So yeah, the movie started with credits over paintings of Hieronymus Bosch.
Mm-hmm.
That'll set the tone.
Yeah, that pretty much did.
The tone. I'm like, this is not what I wasn't expecting that at all. When it starts off, I'm like, this is going to be a little bit more than just a little silly, they're Satanists, just where you can kind of play it up a little bit. This is going to have some real depth to it. And I feel like the movie delivered on the promise that we got in the opening credits.
What else are you going to open with in a movie like this, except for those paintings? They're just satanic.
That's kind of become a thing too. I feel like a lot of movies kind of that deal with devilish or satanic or demonic elements a lot of times will work classic artwork or paintings into the mix. I'm immediately thinking of from the 90s, is it Al Pacino and
Devil's Advocate?
Yeah, and that's Keanu.
And Keanu Reeves.
There's a painting that's very instrumental in that film. In fact, there's a lawsuit because they didn't necessarily pay the original painting's family anyway. But yeah, it immediately gives this kind of instant history or classicism to the evil that we're going to run into in the movie.
And the paintings in the opening credits on this one set it up so well. You're right. It's just really good choice on the director's part.
Mm-hmm.
We've been doing a bunch of connections.
Yeah.
Did you know about the distributors of this? What was it? Bryanston Distributors, Inc.
I don't know anything about them.
They distributed Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Andy Warhol's Frankenstein, Dark Star, but they were mob connected.
Oh, good.
They were mafia affiliated. It's interesting because Ernest Borgnine has claimed that he didn't get paid for his work in this because, for whatever reason.
I had heard that. Borgnine never wanted to do a movie like this again. The subject matter just was not something he wanted to revisit because he didn't get paid. And I guess there were maybe some negative things that happened on the set. Oh, it's cursed or whatever. I had heard that as well, but
yeah, I heard that the director on the commentary probably is like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, it seems like a stretch.
There was a claim that the director had a nervous breakdown, and he's like, nope, sure didn't. Nope. But yeah, it's interesting that the same people who released Texas Chainsaw Massacre were involved in this one. It's unfortunate Ernest Borgnine if he didn't get paid for it. It's unfortunate that he didn't, because he deserved to get paid for this, because he was so good. Oh, man. Oh.
So I'm starting to giggle here because, of course, I'm going to talk about the music.
Of course.
Al DeLore is the person who's credited as the composer of the film. Now, I just wanted to see if any of his music was available for download or purchase. So I went to Amazon, looked up his name, and the first thing to come up is a vinyl recording of him playing Midnight Cowboy. So, I don't know if I don't think The Devil's Rain is available in any way, shape, or form, but if you want to hear him play Midnight Cowboy, apparently it's out there somewhere.
Well,
okay.
Why not?
I liked the music a lot. I feel like every once in a while it dipped into a little over the top, but the movie every once in a while dips into over the top, especially with the goo. So I'm okay with that. I would love to own the score to this. I imagine it's something that I would listen to on a regular basis if it was available.
Yeah, I could see that too. Fortunately, this is one of those movies that really never hit with critics or audiences at the time. But, it's a solid film. It's fun to watch. You get all these really good actors giving it their all. You've got some beautiful photography. And you've got 15 minutes of melting Satanists. What more do you want?
Yeah.
You could argue plot holes, but that doesn't matter. I could see some plot holes, but, still, it's a fun movie. It's well acted. The makeup is amazing. Just, if you watch it, just watch it for the performances and for the photography and for the music and for the big special effects finale, because it's worth the trip.
The movie does have a lot of firsts, a lot of connections. The Halloween mask thing leading to the Halloween franchise. Supposedly, this is the film in which John Travolta discovered the book Dianetics, and that led to his...
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently one of the... I think what I read is one of the actresses introduced him to it, and that eventually led him there. And it is John Travolta's first role, so... I'm not sure if this came out during Welcome Back, Kotter or not. But it's his first movie role before Grease. So
Welcome Back, Kotter was 1975 when it started.
Yeah, I don't think they played off of it as much as they would later, when it first came out, because it was a TV show and it just started. But I'm sure once Grease came out, they were happy to play up John Travolta's first role, first movie. He's not in it very much, folks, so don't be fooled.
Yeah, he did a lot of TV first and then would go to, like, The Devil's Rain, Saturday Night Fever, Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
Carrie was before Grease, wasn't it? Yeah, it was before Grease, so you have that.
Yeah, Saturday Night Fever. Forgot about that one. He did a lot of good stuff in the 70s.
That was a good era for him.
Yeah.
Kind of into the 80s, I guess, maybe. But yeah, really the 70s, I think, is peak Travolta. Why are we talking about Travolta on Monster Kid Radio right now? What is happening?
Because he's in The Devil's Rain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
We can easily get off the Travolta train.
That sounds like a good idea. So, overall, with this movie, I'm going to be honest with you, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
When I was done with it, I initially was a little disappointed.
Yeah.
I wanted this movie to be so big and so awesome and so important and moving, and I felt a little let down by it. I remember thinking, as if it was a long time ago, it was yesterday morning. I ended the movie and I thought, well, I don't like to do episodes of Monster Kid Radio where I am negative. So what did I like about the movie? And I love all the elements of the movie. I love the makeup. I love the look of those who have been hollowed out. I love Borgnine's performance. I love the confrontation between Shatner and Borgnine. I love that there's a little bit of 70s woo-woo in here. I love that. I love that you've got a man of science going up against the devil. It doesn't work out very well, but he tries. I like that. I like the way the Devil's Reign is portrayed. I like the setting so much. I respond so well to the colors of the Old West and the Southwest. I actually just spent like 5 days in Arizona, and there's just something about it. I know it's dry and arid and hot and dusty, and I know that. But there is just something about the natural colors of the sun and the sand and the sunset and the clouds or lack thereof. There's just something about that color palette that has resonated with me forever. I was born in Arizona. I was born in Tucson, so maybe it's just part of my DNA. I don't know. I don't have any memories as a child growing up from Arizona because my dad was military. We moved around a lot. And I think we moved before I started remembering stuff. But that color palette has just always been important to me. I find it fascinating and liberating and exciting in a way that I'm having a hard time describing other than using words like liberating and exciting. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Oregon is probably the best place for me. You know, the Pacific Northwest, and, you know, I love the green and I love the seasons for the most part up here, and culturally and politically and all that other stuff. But the colors, man, of Arizona, and this is a colorblind guy talking here, so maybe I'm seeing something that's not really there. But the colors, the setting, that's always spoken to me. And I got that in The Devil's Reign. And once I started considering all these different elements of the film, I think I was able to process them and put them all together. And then within about half an hour, I decided I did like this movie. Overall, I did like the film. It took maybe about half an hour of considering all the different elements and little pieces and putting the puzzle together in my head to make it work. But then I was able to make it work, and now I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah, you know, and I'll be honest. I mean, I really enjoy this movie, but it is so much better than it should be. You know? It's nothing really great. It shouldn't be this good. It's a fairly low budget 70s horror film, but they got the right actors. They got the right makeup person. They got the right director who used the desert settings so well. You're talking about the color palette, the ghost town with the bleached out, just empty houses and buildings everywhere. It was all used so well that this movie ends up being, like I said, better than it should have been.
Yes.
I think without Fuest behind it, without Ernest Borgnine, William Shatner, Tom Skerritt, Ida Lupio, you know, and all those other actors, without the really incredible makeup, this movie would have just been under the radar for everyone. And unfortunately, it's still kind of under the radar, but it shouldn't be, because it's really fun to watch.
And I think a nice movie to end this month on, the theme on. I think it worked out.
Perfect. I love when things work out.
Scream with the devil. Go wild with the witch. Now, twice the terror in one double shock show. First, the most astounding downpour of horror ever seen, The Devil's Reign, starring William Shatner and John Travolta in his most exciting film. From the creators of Planet of the Apes, Heaven Help Us All, When the Devil's Reign. Plus, on the same show, the girl with the powers of the super unnatural, the Virgin Witch. She'll take you on and turn you on. The witching hour is here. The Virgin Witch. See 2 double shockers from Joseph Brenner releasing. The Devil's Reign plus The Virgin Witch. Together, they'll leave you gasping. This program, rated R.
Vampires, werewolves, zombies.
Yes, these things are real, but fortunately for those of us who can afford him, so is Mark Temple.
And he's good. Real good. He's a former FBI agent turned freelancer with the knowledge and skills to eliminate your monster problems. And his rates are negotiable.
Monster Hunter for Hire, the first volume of the Supernatural Solutions, the Mark Temple Case Files, is now available in both ebook and paperback. Go to tinyurl.com/monsterhuntertemple to buy your copy of Derek M. Cook's latest book.
Read about Mark Temple, the experienced professional now available to rid you of your supernatural, ghoulish, and monstrous pests.
That's tinyurl.com/monsterhuntertemple.
And don't worry, Mark Temple is discreet.
army of deadly predators, searching, destroying anything in their path.
He's over at Colby's. He's found another 20 or 30 hills just like the one we burned.
Why did they come? What do they want?
Spiders in this area have organized themselves into an aggressive army.
William Shatner, Tiffany Bowling, your nightmares will never be the same. Kingdom of the Spiders. Rated PG, parental guidance suggested.
We saw somebody murdered.
Some sort of ritual across the river. A girl got stabbed.
Two men witness an unspeakable evil and get trapped in an unbelievable nightmare. 20th Century Fox presents Race with the Devil, starring Peter Fonda and Warren Oates.
They're trying to screw with our brains. So what are we going to do about it?
There was nowhere they could hide.
You've seen us.
There was no one they could trust.
Did anybody hear anything? Didn't anybody see anything?
There was nothing they could do but run and fight and race with the devil. When you race with the devil, you'd better be faster than hell. Peter Fonda and Warren Oates in Race with the Devil. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode of Monster Kid Radio. Thank you for joining me this month during the Satanic Rites of January. I don't know if we're going to do another Satanic Rites of January next year or not, but it has been fun going through these movies and just seeing the satanic influence, I suppose, on our favorite monster movies. It's been a lot of fun. I've had a blast going through these films, revisiting some old favorites and finding some new ones to enjoy along the way. Thank you to Ken Hite, Chris McMillan, Alistair Hughes, Scott Morris, and Frank Schildener for being part of the festivities this month. Next month on Monster Kid Radio, I'd like to do another themed month. So we're going to kick off Flashback February. Now, what happens in Flashback February? We are going to take a look at some movies that we've already talked about here on the show. We've got over 250 episodes, so I know there are some movies out there that we haven't talked about in a long time, or maybe some people wanted to talk about some of these movies, but it's already been covered. So, you know what? We're going to open up the vaults. We're going to look at some of the movies that we've already covered on the show, bring somebody else on, and discuss the movies with them. Different point of view, that sort of thing. Longtime listeners of the show know that Joe Stuber from Comic Book Central and I covered all of the Abbott and Costello Meet the Monster movies. He's a huge fan of Abbott and Costello, and I thought it was only right to have him on to talk about those movies. But I know a lot of people love those films, including Scott Morris. So Scott Morris will be hopping on over from Disney, Indiana, to talk about Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein with me here on the show next week.
Count Dracula sleeps in this coffin, but rises every night at sunset. Chick is right. This is awful silly stuff.
The nation's top comics, Abbott and Costello. Petrified, but hilariously. Plus the dangerous and terrifying Wolfman, played by Lon Chaney. Plus that fiend out of a nightmare, the vampire Batman, Count Dracula, played by Bela Lugosi. Plus the most dreaded creature of them all, the Frankenstein monster, played by Glenn Strange. Plus a couple of luscious but designing females in the spookiest laugh fest on record.
What else can you expect during Flashback February? Well, stay tuned to monsterkidradio.net because I'll make sure I post it there, as well as on Facebook and Twitter. Of course, that would be after I get everybody scheduled, because right now I still have a few openings. Anyway, I mentioned the website, monsterkidradio.net. Did you know we have links to our Facebook page and our Twitter page and our Facebook group on the website, as well as links to everything that we talked about here on the show, the musicians that you hear, various websites that come up during different conversations, and even Amazon affiliate links to the movies that we talk about here on the show. If you are going to shop at Amazon, please consider doing so through our Amazon affiliate links because, well, it helps with the programming here on Monster Kid Radio. The programming, like that, you know what I mean. It helps with everything that we do here on the podcast. You know what else helps the podcast? Honest reviews. If you download the show through Apple Podcasts or some other podcast catcher or directory, please consider leaving an honest review for the podcast there. The more reviews, the more likelihood of getting more listeners, and, the more Monster Kids, the merrier, right? I want to thank everybody for their support with the podcast and of me personally. It really does mean a lot. Monster Kid Radio is a registered service mark of Monster Kid Radio, LLC. All original content of Monster Kid Radio by Monster Kid Radio, LLC is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 3.0 Unported license. Except, of course, the song. Negative ID belongs to the band Granrojo. It's from the self-titled album Granrojo, which you can find at granrojo.bandcamp.com. The 9-song digital album is only $5. And one of those songs is a cover of the theme song from the HBO show Tales from the Crypt. And it's really cool. I didn't want to play it, though, because of the whole rights thing, but man, it's become one of my favorite tracks that I've discovered through Monster Kid Radio. Also, if you're in the Eugene, Oregon area, they do have a show coming up on March 22nd at Sessions Music Hall. If you go, let them know that Monster Kid Radio sent you. My name's Derek M. Cook. I'll talk to everybody next week. Ciao.